would like to call for our panel, which is Developing Conducive Ecosystem for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. Our first panelist, Mr. Omar Uz, International Expert of Incubation Management. Welcome. Mr. Abdul Al-Qaid, CEO of Jordan Enterprise Development Corporation. Welcome on stage. Get closer. Dr. Giovanni Zazzini, Secretary General of International Network for SMEs. Welcome, sir. Professor Randa Rizq, Secretary General of Arab Council for Social Responsibility. Dr. Rizq, is she here? Dr. Ashraf Al-Arabi, President of National Planning Institute. Welcome on stage. Mr. Mahmoud Abdel Samad Ilyas, Director Support and Services, Ministry of Youth Affairs. Welcome, sir. Wishing you a very insightful conversation. Encourage them, please. A big round of applause for each and every of our panelists.
Everyone, did you hear me? I used my experience of yesterday. I was in the panel here, and I see that the moderator was there, and it was difficult to talk on the mic and to look to the moderator. So I changed the place, and I come here to let you talk more easily with that. Please, should be better. Yes.
Working? Yes. We'll have another one for any one of you that has an issue with the sound system. Every word counts.
Thank you very much. Did you hear me here? Yes? Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Sabah al-Khair. I'm very happy to moderate this session on behalf of Dr. Hashim from HBO Bahrain. This is the second day of the 12th edition of Entrepreneurship Investment Summit, and you can't start better than with the ecosystem, conductive ecosystem. It's okay? More? Yeah. Conductive ecosystem for entrepreneurship and innovation. And I'm happy to have here today our distinguished panelist, Mr. Omar Uz, International Expert Incubation Management from Turkey, Mr. Al-Qaid, CEO of Jordanian Enterprise Development Corporation, Dr. Giovanni Zazzini, Secretary General of International Network for SMEs, Dr. Ashraf Al-Arabi, President, National Planning Institute, and Mr. Mahmoud Abdel Samad Ilyas, Director Support and Services from Ministry of Youth Affairs. Welcome all, and I will start to say, since many years we was hearing about Silicon Valley and what happens in the United States with this, and was asking what happens, why they are so successful, why everyone in the world is hearing about this successful startups and investments coming up from United States. And when we look to that, we say that most of the most important part of this success is the ecosystem, and we was talking about how actors in the ecosystem can support entrepreneurs and innovation to foster, to allow, to give the opportunities, to offer opportunity and investment for entrepreneurs to succeed. I will ask each one of you to present his institutions or ministry or company or anyway, and explain what you are doing in your own ecosystem. And I will start with Mr. Omar Oz. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank for the organization to invite me here. When they asked me to talk, okay, that I would like to talk about the innovation ecosystem in Turkey. Then I searched the ChatGPT. It comes out that everything I was gonna talk here was there. So I'm not going to talk about theoretical setup. I'm just going to talk about my experience for last 35 years. When we started to establish the ecosystem in Turkey, usually the governments are the initiatives. So we started in 1990. And they told me to establish an incubator in Turkey. And nobody knew what is incubator in Turkey in 1990. So we asked assistance from UNIDO. And UNIDO told us how to establish the incubator. Actually, first we wanted to establish technoparks. But in reality, UNIDO advised us, let's start with incubators. Then, if it is successful, you will go on full-fledged technoparks. It was in 1990. The idea of supporting SMEs and startups comes from Silicon Valley in 1970. It was a government initiative as well. The Defense Organization of United States supported these initiatives. Then in 1980s, one visionary person, French diplomat, he wanted to establish a knowledge city, which is Sofia Antipolis. So things are getting, it started from in 1970, now it's getting accelerated all over the world. It's not linear, it's accelerated. What is important here, I would like to mention, you can stop me anytime you want, if I speak too long. What is important is that you have to be persistent. I am a retired man now after 35 years. They only give me a piece of paper and they told me that, Omar, thank you very much, do whatever you want to do. Halas, finished. It was a sad time. I retired about 6 months ago. Then I realized that we have achieved something because in Turkey, I'm Turkish, in Turkey we are going for election within 2 weeks' time. In this election, every party in their agenda have mentioned about innovation ecosystem, entrepreneur development systems, all of them. It wasn't like that 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but now this innovation and support of SMEs came to every party's agenda, and it made me feel good because we started this movement, but in persistence, because it takes time. But with this digital age, this movement goes ever so fast. It's not linear, it's exponential. Also, you need to change the culture, mind setup of the society, because in the past, we said that don't introduce new rules to an old village. We were safe, we didn't take any risk. But now, we give too much importance to the innovation and entrepreneurship development.
Thank you, Mr. Rouse. Mr. Al-Qaid.
Yeah. Good morning, actually, and I would like to thank also UNIDO and the organizer for this event. Jordan actually, or according to the economic part in the Jordan Vision 2033, mainly the SMEs of Jordan will have a very big role to achieve the economic growth as it is targeted in the vision. Now we are working maybe to create a new law for SMEs in Jordan. This will enhance their capability to access finance and also to have more privileges in many sectors in the economic life in Jordan. In my part, Jordan Enterprise Development Corporation, or JETCO, actually it's the umbrella for the SMEs in Jordan in this vision. And now we are building the capacity of the SMEs so as to enhance their productivity, their marketing skills, even to enhance their sustainable for the future in the economy and to play a role that could enhance our economy in the major. Mainly what I'm looking for now maybe is to have something or to have a role for the commercial sector or the private sector to work with the SMEs in the future. I believe that we should have to adapt the requirements of the commercial banks with the needs of the SMEs at the end, because there are so many funds, there are so many donors for the SMEs, but I think we should build a system for the SMEs to finance their transactions at the end. I think maybe this is the role which we should work on it in the future. And as I said, the private sector and the commercial banks should play the role in the finance for the SMEs at the end. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you. Dr. Zazarin.
Good morning. Do you want me to present ISME or to address the topic, because some noises? Do you want to present ISME or speak about the topic?
You present your organization, okay, and then what you are doing in the ecosystem for SMEs.
Okay, fantastic, because of some noises around. Yes, I'm the Secretary General of ISME. ISME is the International Network for SMEs. Is a not-for-profit association set up almost 20 years ago by the OECD and the Italian Ministry of Economic Development in order to gather together public and private organizations dealing with the development and implementation of policies and programs in favor of entrepreneurship and SMEs, believing that innovation and internationalization are the key drivers for social and economic development. ISME is therefore a kind of think tank focused on international best practices and approach that could be shared among our members in order to advocate the best policies for startup, small businesses, and entrepreneurship in general. And in doing that, I think that I would like to highlight one of the key insights coming from what we are doing. Developing entrepreneurial ecosystem means first and foremost to look at the local context. Too often, governments pursue ideal ecosystem without the understanding that it's impossible to replicate those ecosystems in a different context. So governments, each country, each region should look at its own strengths, sectors in which on which they can build up an ecosystem. And I'll give you a couple of examples about that, about the local context, how important it is in developing the ecosystem, in sustaining an ecosystem, in facilitating an ecosystem. The first one is about Italy. You know, Italy is always scoring very low in all the international innovation ranking. Just for an example, the European Innovation Scoreboard put Italy as in the cluster of moderate innovators, so in a low position, describing Italy as a declining country with poor investment in research and development. But on the other hand, if you look at the figures and numbers, last year we reached a record in Italy of export, reaching something like 630 billion of euro in export. This was growing 20% last year. So the question is what we are exporting. Probably these metrics, these innovation metrics are not describing this value. Therefore, I was questioning, is the Italian way of innovating somehow different? And I think that in some sector, you have to think about that. You have to think that there are sectors technology-driven, such as the pharmaceutical industry, the electronic industry, and so on, in which financing research and development is crucial, protecting with patents, product, and innovation is fundamental importance. But there are also sectors in which that are market-driven. And in this sector, probably you have to sustain companies and help them to commercialize, to help them to marketing the product at national and international level. So it's a different approach with different policies to sustain this ecosystem. And the second example I was studying, and we were studying at ISME, was about the so-called market-driven innovation. And we were looking at the Nigerian entrepreneurial ecosystem, in which, in this system, instead of having a top-down approach to ecosystem development in which the government play a crucial role, in Nigeria, if we look at the movie industry with the famous Nollywood sector, they were starting an ecosystem starting from the product, from the innovation. Kenneth Neboué started such ecosystem in the 90s, and nowadays they produce 1,500 movies per year, with the banking system financing this industry, with schools, with financial institutions backing this entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the same is happening in the ICT sector in Nigeria, following the first unicorn, Jumia, the online marketplace, that was the first unicorn in Africa. So I think these are two valuable examples to consider the local context and to develop an entrepreneurial ecosystem starting from the country's strengths and those sectors that could be the pillars of
Thank
the
you.
ecosystem.
Thank you, Dr. Darin. Mr. Al-Arabi.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank my dear friend, His Excellency Dr. Khalid Hanafi, and the organizers for inviting me to this important event. My name is Ashraf Al-Arabi. I am currently the president of the Institute of National Planning. INP was established in 1960 as the first planning institute in the MENA region. It's a think tank. We have different activities. One of the main activities of the institute is to produce annual development reports. So we issue an Arab development report annually in collaboration with the Arab Planning Institute in Kuwait. And the theme of this report in 2021 was the same as the one we are discussing today, providing conducive ecosystems for entrepreneurship, for SMEs, and innovation. In that report, we specified some key elements. We can call it prerequisites before we talk about any micro policies to target the entrepreneurship and the innovation. We need to make sure that we guarantee political and security stability in the country. Macroeconomic stability in the country is crucial in this regard. As long as we have, and unfortunately, we in our countries, or many of our countries today, are suffering from political unrest and social unrest and macroeconomic instability. So it's absolutely not the ecosystem that we are talking about. So it's I believe these are prerequisites. Besides this, of course, we need to specify clearly the role of the state versus the role of the private sector in the country. So the private sector should lead the growth in and the economic dimension in the country as a whole, but with support of the government as a regulator, as a facilitator, as to provide the necessary infrastructure in partnership with the private sector also. These are, in our opinion, key elements to build this conducive ecosystem in the country. Of course, we need to promote, to encourage the entrepreneurial spirit and culture in the country, and this should let us focus more on investment in human capital, in education, especially in the primary and secondary levels, to promote this spirit among the youth. Of course, we have many challenges in our countries. It's a high population growth, high unemployment rate, especially among the youth, which is really critical in this regard. So it's to invest more, to have more incubators, to have more accelerators in the country, to incubate the SMEs, the entrepreneurs, and in our opinion, is crucial in this regard.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Arabi. شكرا. Mr. Mahmoud, yes.
Good morning. We at Ministry of Youth Affairs base all our programming on a curriculum that's very clear, based on identify, upskill, and shed light, which creates that youth ecosystem and preps our future workforce. Mainly, we focus on three main outcomes, and one comes through employability, and one of the areas of employability is either entering the workforce or as an entrepreneur. And objectively, we want to create more of an impactful talent and highly skilled future workforce. So what we do is we look at the skill gaps and the challenges we have, and based on that, we create programmings that will set the requirements of the future workforce. And entrepreneurship obviously lays down as one of the main aspects that we focus on. And based on that, we look at what are the future impacts that we need to create of the market, and creating that whole synergy by facilitating all the stakeholders that are required to place that.
Thank you. I want to have another round of questions if you give me the floor. I want to ask very quickly, when we talk about ecosystem, we talk about cooperation between private sector, public sector, university, think tanks, NGOs, corporates, SMEs, and startups, and usually to support SMEs and startups. I want to ask you very quickly, what kind of cooperation we have with other parts of the ecosystem? Particularly, to ask, for example, Dr. Zazzarini, are you advocating for SMEs and trying to have like more conducive ecosystem? I mean, better environment, business environment. Mr. Oz, same. Are you talking with public sector? The same question for the public sector representative here. Are you working together with private sector representatives and to offer better environment, business environment for SMEs and startups?
I think the main question here is understanding the role of each sector is very crucial, and that is set through a very
cooperation.
Clear, yes, for cooperation. So understanding the role of the private sector, the public sector, and all of the stakeholders is the key question in here. And I think that should be covered through the term that has been very public out there nowadays called governance. And that's my point of view on that aspect in terms of the cooperations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Given the time limit, I will just try to highlight one of the results of the recent report, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor report in 2021. It states that almost 47% of the adults in the Arab region believe that starting a business is a good career choice. And almost 62% of adults perceive that successful entrepreneurs receive high status and respect in their society. In addition, there has been a growing interest in entrepreneurship and innovation in the region, with many events and competitions promoting entrepreneurship.
Thank you.
Yes, just to give a very quick feedback to your question that requires a more in-depth analysis, but just to give you a quick answer, I think that innovation is about knowledge development and knowledge sharing. We can set all the policies and programs in favor of entrepreneurship and startup, but if those firms are not able to innovate, they won't. So we need to develop their knowledge, their capabilities, and we can do that supporting the knowledge development and the knowledge sharing. And in doing that, I think that open innovation programs are a must-have in each country. And in open innovation program, the public sector and the non-profit sector should play a crucial part for both stimulating startups and entrepreneurs to work on problems or market opportunities identified, support them or give them some first contract, and also by sharing the expertise and the know-how in some sector. So yes, the public support, need private organization to take part, and probably this is what ISMA is trying to do, and this is why all of us are here.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, the future is for the private sector in finance, the SMEs and entrepreneurships. I believe it's the time so as to go ahead with the private sector, maybe all the governments and all the entrepreneurs in the world, as to work hard in the future to build a partnership, joint ventures with the private sector or the financial private sector and commercial banks in the world, actually.
Thank you.
Innovation ecosystem is a very complex structure, which I cannot explain in 30 seconds, but it usually starts with the government initiatives, then the private sector follows after when they see the success. In Turkey, it took 15 years. Those actors playing in the ecosystem is very, very complex, but sometimes we have to keep in mind that each actor must be define his own rule, because there's usually a duplication of these activities. There is a saying in English, how many elephants can dance at the tip of a pin? So it has to be well structured, but this well structuring will come naturally in time. Thank you, shukran.
Thank you very much to all our speakers for this morning. Thank you. And
thank you so much. Please remain on stage for a commemorative group photo, please. Stand up. Dr. Rasha, can you please take the lead? Come on over. A big round of applause for our panelists, our speakers, and very insightful panel.